In this video, I'm going to show you how to make dank, dreamy, and ethereal Ripsquad type beats. If you've been struggling to get that Ripsquad, Drain Gang, Blade type beat sound, you've come to the right place. I'm going to show you the top 3 reasons why your Ripsquad beats are sounding mid and how to fix them. All right. So for those of you guys who don't know, Ripsquad is it's a producer collective, and they do beats for a few people, including Blade, and their style is just categorized as dreamy, ethereal, it's trappy, it's good on so many levels. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to start producing that myself. And so I'm going to walk you through the top 3 reasons why I believe that people are getting hung up and where you can fix your beats and take them to the next level so that they are industry standard or whatever standard that you are going for. And the first one we're going to go over is the beats. So for the beats, something that I do, so these are the drums that I have going on here. And if you don't already do this, I would suggest putting your kick and your snare and all of your instruments on different channels so that you are able to mix them individually, because that's going to play a pretty big difference in, it's going to be a lot harder to mix if it's all in one channel. And honestly, the mix is one of the most important parts. The other part, obviously, is the sound selection. Now, I'm going to actually put something in the description, and it's going to have the drums. It's a Ripsquad kit that I found from Reddit, and they're pretty dope. I think it's either a recreation or they're actually used in Ripsquads. I'm not really sure where it came from. So a lot of it is, sound selection. And then you're going to hear, and I think, in my opinion, a lot of the trap drums are pretty standard. But something that I think is a great technique and is one of the reasons why I've been able to achieve such a similar sound is because for new styles that I'm trying to absorb and add to my arsenal, I will break them into stems and then analyze them. And so in this case, that's what I've done. The reference track for this is Let's Ride by Blade, which is a Ripsquad track. And so what you do is you take them and you put them into UVR, and I'm not going to do this right now. I'll probably do it in another video, but UVR, literally any song that you could buy the song, drop it in, and it'll split it into stems. And it literally takes 30 seconds. And then you take it, this is the thing, you take it and you put it into the DAW. And so your favorite song, now you can analyze the kick pattern, the snare, the hi-hats. So this is what the drum pattern sounds like. Oh, there we go. This is what it sounds like for Ride. Pretty standard. I mean, obviously the snare is standard. The kick pattern is pretty cool. And this is one of the reasons why I suggest writing your drum beats in MIDI. It's just a lot easier to edit. And this is something that I went through, and this is the hi-hat pattern, and I listened to and tried to copy the style. And this is something that, everything that we do, we've been copying from everyone else our whole life. And I'm not saying to go and release a track and have that pattern in it, but the act and the practice of taking and breaking down other people's songs and learning what they do, then you could take that and add it to your arsenal. And it gives you a better understanding of how to do it, so that when you go to do it, you are now better at writing hi-hat patterns. You're better at writing kick patterns because you're learning directly from them and from the audio. And same thing I did, and we will go over that. It's how I was able to discover the tones and even the melodies in the music theory. So that's the one from the Rip, and then this is mine. So you get the idea. And you know, I'm just listening for each part. I'm like listening to the kicks, where's the snares come in. You even hear the hi-hat coming in. So you would just go and listen through each instrument, and you even go in, and this is one of the things that separates this style, is seeing like where do they put their breaks. So if we were to listen to, I have the whole thing, well, everything except the vocals. Like that space is actually really important. So seeing like what are the ways and that they utilize space and breaks, because those will take your drums and they will level them up. And you could do that and break down any track this way. And so, and then for, you obviously can see I have a template up. So the only thing really coming through the low end for me is the kick, and all the low end for everything else is EQ'd out. And I'm putting a clipper on the end, and there's a big difference between a clipper and a limiter. The limiter squashes the sound and it actually pushes down the volume, whereas the limiter allows it to go past 0 while still maintaining the dynamics. So that's why a clipper is good on your drums and it's good on the master. So that's pretty much what all I'm going to cover for the drums for now. And the next thing that we're going to go over is sound design. Now, sound design is obviously huge in Ripsquad style stuff. I mean, the sound choice is just impeccable. And there's a lot of good resources out there for sound design stuff. I mean, like obviously Night Tiger, his stuff is insane. So Night Tiger's and his packs, and Shinju has so many, he has like 5 serum banks at least. And so here's some of the, and it's not just knowing like the presets, it's knowing like what instruments do they use. And so I'm just going to list a couple of them, and I'm going to go through some of the ones that I have. But it's the pads. So they use pads, bells, plucks, like leads, and they could be sine leads, like siren-y leads, 808s obviously, and Reese bass. And I'm going to show you super quickly just like a really simple way to make a Reese bass. And so we're going to use something that everybody knows, serum. So that's the sound. I'm going to just recreate it for you because it takes 2 seconds. So that's initial. You put up the unison, so it's playing 16. You turn up the release. You do mono, so they're both not playing at the same time, and you put on a filter. And obviously down octaves, maybe 3. Up the resonance, drive a little bit. That's a cool way to make a nice bass it's vibey. So it's important to start investing into your synthesis skills, but there's so many, obviously. So I'm going to show you just some of the instruments that I would use when I'm making when I go in, and a lot of them I already have loaded, or a lot of them I have loaded in my instrument rack, and I'll go through and I could see them. You could see them if I'll go through, and these are my like guitar stuff. I got plucks, bells, pads, and these are sort of my instrument presets, and I'm going to go through some of them here. So here's some plucks, a lot of some Spyro's insane. Obviously, you know, Serum. This is from a Shinju pack. I think it's from the Soundbank 3. Omnisphere. Omnisphere is incredible. I bought it years ago, and it took me years to learn it, but they have incredible instruments, including like their bells are insane. Let's see. This is a Spire pad. I got this one from Night Tiger. This is one of my favorite pianos. This is a Nexus. This is just a sample. You ever like blow into a bottle and you could, you make a sound out of it? I recorded myself, and sampling is super underrated. So that sounds like it could be a synth, and it's not, it's a sample. And so getting into sampling, this is probably my favorite synth, and it's a Super Nintendo synthesizer. It's weird, it's a sampler. And I would love to do a whole nother video on this right now, but I'm just kind of going through, and then let's hear this last one. Is just a pluck from Spyro, and what I wanted to show off with this one is the rhythmizer. So that's kind of what the last part of this is, like post-processing and putting like effects on it. So for something like this is a simple pattern, and so but if we put like gross beat, for example, like gross beat's insane. And this is M Rhythmizer, which is basically the same thing as gross beat. But I obviously don't have FL. So, but it allows you to mess with the time and the volume automation. So for this one, if we were to do the volume, and you could do this on gross beat probably easier. And same thing with the time. That's a vibe, and that's way different than what we had originally. So that's the first two. It's your sound choice, and I think that coming up right here, this might be the most important part of doing this, is the music theory. So I'm probably like you. I've never, I took one class in I don't even know, when I was in college, and I didn't even complete it. So I'm coming at you from the perspective of like, I've never had any formal training. So I'm going to go over some stuff, and basically I'm going to try to break it down. I think you need some understanding of what I'm about to say. And so if we have more questions, we could really get into it. But what Ripsquad does is, and a lot of the styles that give it that like ethereal and dreamy vibe, is they're using this thing called relative modes. And so, and you maybe think, so you know the key of C, and so everything is in the key of C that I'm about to show you, just to make it as easier as possible. And so that's the crazy thing about this. So we're going to use the same 7 keys. It's all the white keys. So it's going to be all in the same signature, but we're actually going through different modes within the signature. And the mode is basically what the key starts on, what note the key is starting on. And so when it, for this example, we're doing C major, the first note in the scale is C. And I don't know if you guys know this, so there's 7 modes, one for each note in the scale. But did you know that C major is actually one of the modes? C major is Ionian. So it's the Ionian mode, but it's actually the same thing as C major. And that's why you could say, oh, that's like, I knew that C major and A minor were the same thing. They're in the same key signature, but they're relative modes. So you have Aeolian, which is actually the 6th mode, and that's a natural minor. So in this case, it's A minor. So what Ripsquad, Drain Gang, the Blade Type beat vibe is, you're actually mixing modes together. And that's what gives it that like a dreamy, ethereal, floating vibe, is because you can't quite pin down what the vibe is. It's a mixture of so many. And so that's what, like, the biggest one is probably you have a minor bass line with a major melody on top. And I'll show you an example of like what I mean by that. So I think in this case, so this is the Let's Ride, and I recreated it based on what I heard when I broke out the stems. So and this is with the bass. And you listen to that and it's like, for me, I was just like, I have no idea what's going on here. And I had to like actually recreate it to start to understand it myself. So this is all in the key of C. It's the key signature is C. So it's actually starting off with C. So you could see right here, the bass line is actually in C major, C Ionian. And that's, if you don't have good speakers, you can't hear. That's just the 808 bass. So, but now if we're going to the melody, let's just look at one at a time. So we're gonna go with the, so now if we look at the melody, we see, oh, it's actually in A minor. It's starting off with A. So it's the melody is in a different mode than the bass line. It's starting off at A. And then we could add the lead to that. If we look at the lead is doing the same thing. It's starting off with A. So this is actually an A minor melody on top of a C major bass line. And then if we add the last counter melody, now this is where it's crazy. The counter melody is in a completely different mode. It's starting off in G, and that's actually mixolydian. So C is the first mode, it's C major. A is A minor, that's Aeolian, which is the 6th. And then the 5th, that's mixolydian. And if we were to go back here, that's where so it's a Ionian bass line with a minor melody and then a mixolydian counter melody. But it's crazy because it's all staying within the same key. It's all in the C major key signature. And when I was going through that, it blew my mind, because I was just like, how are they mixing like all these different, seemingly different like scales together? But that's what I came to realize is that it's all in the same key signature, and they're using relative modes. And so I actually came up with this mode combination chart. And basically what it is you can try combining the different modes together and see what type of melody loop you can come up with. So for this one, this represents all 7 of the modes, and the mode just basically means mood. It's what is the mood of that scale. And so 1 is major, 6 is minor, 1 is Aeolian. I'm sorry, 1 is Ionian, 6 is Aeolian. 1 has that pure vibe. It's like uplifting, it's happy. Dorian is smooth, dark, ethereal. Mixolydian is expansive, etc., etc. So now you could look at this and actually put together. If you haven't done it before, just start with 2. The 2 biggest ones that I see them use are Ionian and Aeolian. You're mixing together either a minor bass line with a major melody on top, or vice versa, a major bass line with a minor melody on top, which is what we just saw in Let's Ride. And what they did was added a Mixolydian counter melody. And so that's this triangle right here, 1, 6, 5. And I think this is just a cool way to look at it, so that when you go and start to do it, you start to put together different combinations that are gonna, you could obviously like try the ones that they use so that you can get a feel for it, and then try to start experimenting on your own. I didn't use Locrian or Phrygian because Phrygian is just too dark. And I think it kind of takes over the vibe, and Locrian is, like I said here, it's unstable. It doesn't have I'm not super sure how to explain it, but it doesn't have a natural power chord within it. I don't know if I really explained that right, but generally Locrian's not used when you're mixing modes together because it just sounds off. So that is pretty much, I think, what I wanted to go over. Oh, and I went over and I put together another example, and I can go over that for this one. And so this one is, let's see. So this is also in C. And what I'm doing is I'm putting together, so even though it's all in the same key signature of C, I'm starting off with D, which is Dorian. So I'm actually starting off with 2, the second mode. And I'm going to add an Aeolian melody on top. So I'm adding, a Dorian plus a minor melody on top, so A. And let's hear how that sounds. These pads are going to reinforce the bass line. So these are the 3 I'm mixing together. Dorian, Aeolian, and Mixolydian. That's why it's starting off with G. So the 2, the 5, and the 3. Let's add this one. Adding another Mixolydian counter melody. Right here. And we'll add these plucks, which are going to reinforce the original mode. Wow, if you watched this far, thanks for sticking with me. I hope this was helpful. I hope this blew some minds and that people had some breakthroughs while you were watching this. I'm planning on doing way more videos, so please drop a comment and let me know deeper things. I know I went over a lot. Please let me know like different things that you want me to dive into, and I would love to just start to explain different things and help you guys break through and take your production skills to the next level. So until next time, my name is Will, Prod Evangelion. Peace out.